first one, Dr. Thomas Julik, human business architect and executive at Allianz. And he just told me a few minutes before we start that he's also an author of a book called The Spirit of Human Business. I will let him tell us a bit more about it. And I will start with you, a short intro about yourself and whatever else you want to say with us.
Well, yes, thank you, first of all, for inviting me to share my ideas about what corporate innovation and how it could work. As you've already mentioned, I'm a human business architect. I help businesses become human right now within Allianz. My vision is that by the year 2030, human business is the new global norm. So that's like we're no longer talking about shareholder value, but we're actually talking about generating value for and by people. And now we can talk about some of the ideas I have.
Yeah, sure. Next one is Stephanie Kioutsoukis, right? Managing Director at Fresh Strategy. So yeah, tell us a few things about yourself.
So you just said it, I'm heading an innovation services company which is called Fresh Strategy. We provide services to large organizations, but also small organizations like startups. So we see both sides. Actually, our mission is to unleash the innovation potential of each organization, and that obviously has to do with people, with organizational structure, with strategy, with how you embed yourself in the ecosystem, and also with the practices that you use to develop and create innovation.
Great. Next one is Andreas, Iten, CEO at Iten Incubator.
Thanks very much, and first of all, thanks for all the brave people still here in this room. I think it's quite late, so probably everyone is looking for having a beer or so. I didn't have one, so looking forward to one or two. So my name is Andy, I'm CEO co-founder of F10. We are a globally innovation ecosystem focusing on financial and insurance services. We run accelerators, incubators in Singapore, Switzerland, Spain, and the Nordics region. And our mission is actually to unite startups with big business. So that's what we do for banks and insurance companies.
Thank you, Andreas. And last one is Alexander Romanishyn. I hope I told it correctly. Executive board member at ICE, Accelerator VC. So
yeah, so great to meet all of you. Yeah, and during this intro, and it's my honor to be with you here and share my experience in this corporate innovation. So I did the first corporate innovation program in EY 5 years ago. Then I did spin-off of this project just to speed up, because everybody knows what a big 4 means in terms of speed. So startup can die before university round with big 4. And yeah, we created this program, it's a pure corporate accelerator, and we work on with B2B growth stage startups. And we leverage my EY network and worldwide, have mentors from many countries. And we work with Unilever, we work with Watson, with Shell, so many big corporates, our clients. Is one hand. From another hand, we have pure startup acceleration programs, like 3 months acceleration program. And we scout mostly, we start working from Ukraine actually, and now we extend to Poland and to other Eastern European countries and consider startups to help them to grow and yeah, it's brilliant.
awesome, thank you everyone. So let's kick off the discussion of today's topic. And I would like to share with the audience what are your thoughts on the role that innovation programs like startup programs, accelerators, and how actually they can boost the corporate innovation, can be boosted by corporate innovation. So let's start with the lady of the panel.
Oh, what a privilege. Okay, what do I think? How do those innovation programs help boost innovation for corporates? Actually, there are various aspects to it. I think one of them is if a corporate is really open in partnership with startups, they can try to collaborate with the brightest minds and of this world to find new breakthrough solutions. There are many industries that are actually sort of losing their business model, so they are in need of finding new solutions, and for that they would have to connect, to partner with the brightest minds that are creative and sophisticated enough to create new solutions. The second aspect is, in order to remain competitive in the global landscape, the companies will need to bring out new innovations, both to actually provide added value for their customers, but also to increase their efficiency. At the end of the day, it comes also down to improve their overall operations. You know, we just talked about metaverse, we just talked about Web3, we talked about zero carbon emissions, all of that today. And innovation or new solutions, new tech, will help them to achieve and integrate these solutions into their operations and remain competitive for the future. I know that some companies also see innovation programs as a means to invest and to find partners for mergers and acquisitions in the future. So that's a third aspect I'd like to highlight.
Okay, great. Thanks, Stephanie. Andreas?
All right, so I think we should start with the why. Why actually corporates want to work with startups? It's very simple. Corporates or big incumbents, they can't innovate. I've seen, so many attempts with, internal initiatives, creating ideas, MVPs and so on, but they were never really scaled up to become a successful business. So I believe, this is not the turf where, the incumbents are playing with. This is a startup field, and you didn't look at kind of corporate innovation projects this morning, right? You looked at startups. So where's innovation coming from? It's coming from startups. On the other hand, it's also very difficult to scale kind of innovation up to become a significant, real, relevant business. And there is where I believe the symbiosis between startups and corporates come into play. If they are able to partner, which is very, very difficult to be honest, because there's a real clash of the culture, of the speed and so on. If you manage to get that thing running, I think your innovation becomes much more effective and you can create real impact. And that's why I'm a big believer in this symbiosis. That's why we need these programs to support startups, because they just don't come from, automatically. Basically, also someone needs to make sure that, these innovations start to become reality. That means it needs venture capital, but it also needs the corporates to, help them innovate and to scale them up. So the symbiosis for me is the most important aspect in that area.
Yeah, so when we receive answer of the question why, we can move to the next questions. What approach for corporates should be chosen in terms of innovation? And usually, based on my 10 years experience with corporates, I divided corporates on the level of maturity, because you can't come to any company and make just one proposal, the same proposal. And in terms of maturity, I usually illustrate the slides, but I will try to describe this orally and simplify a little bit. So we have three types of maturity. And this maturity depends on the purpose, why corporates want to do this innovation, corporate innovation. So the first level is just to develop innovation brand, to be presented on the market, attractive for talent, because younger generation will never come to the company with old approach. And if you want to attract talent, you need to show that you demonstrate that you are open to innovation. I actually believe in open innovation concept in general. I will tell later about this. But the second, when corporates want to resolve some specific needs which they understand. So usually it's very easy to come to them to make challenges, to make interview of the top managers to identify challenges and just to start scouting, which we usually do, all of us. It's just regular concepts, it's kind of the next level of maturity, and the highest level of maturity is when corporates want to disrupt themselves. When they already, for example, in telecom industry, mobile operator, but banking is a new niche for them, and they try to go to another niche, kind of, they understand that mobile is commodity, and they try to utilize all clients with another niche and to create something new. And they have the huge challenge. They look over 10 years what happened. And I like this client and this corporate the most because it's really easy to work with them and make kind of cutting edge technology and to do piloting with them. My point of view.
But you know what? Regarding startups and corporations, I'm not convinced that it's really working. It can work. As soon as a corporation thinks that a startup can be integrated in its present organization, it's pretty much like guaranteed for death of the startup. That's my experience. And that's why actually, if you really want to create and nurture something like an innovative culture, startups may be not the best way to do. Why? Because it involves risk. But then most corporations, especially bigger ones, they're risk averse. So what I've been pitching, I also have had some experience in a number of corporations, including Daimler, was actually they were focusing on smaller projects of 3 days, 4 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks, in cross-functional teams, co-located, that was for the pandemic, and definitely not on the campus where the corporation was. And then you have magic, or the potential for magic. So I believe if you really want to nurture, if you want to promote innovation in a risk-averse corporation, look at projects and think of project incubators. I think it's much simpler, faster, and it involves less risk.
Cool. Thank you all. My next question is that usually many corporations run the startup programs only where in the countries where they operate. What do you think we can do in order to change that and start the startup programs be more inclusive and can reach global minds, top minds, let's say, around the globe?
I think that's a good question, but I want to add something to your point. I think if the corporate think that they can change the culture whilst partnering with startups, they will fail. Because it's not, and startups are not meant to help the corporates to change the culture. That's the wrong tool. And I think the most important thing is that you use the right tool for the right purpose. If you want, get access to new business opportunities and maybe even create new businesses, etc., it's nice. But if you want to change the culture, move away from startups and engage internal people in projects. Perfectly fine. So let's cover the question you asked around proximity. I think proximity is extremely important. It's not working if you if you constantly have to chase the people and so on. So that means if you can work with someone who is close to you, it's much easier and faster. We've learned 2 years that proximity, even if people live like around the corner, is actually not relevant anymore because we learned to do everything online. So actually running virtual programs, that's possible, but I don't believe it really works. So at the end of the day, the reality is, if you want to create engagement, innovation, even if we invest, and we are investing, we invested in already 150 companies, we usually do that with people who have to be very close to these, entrepreneurs, because otherwise it's very, very difficult. And that means if you want to get access to kind of innovation which is coming from maybe an ecosystem which is far away, you most probably have to be on the ground there. You have to be close. Maybe you need to set up something, an organization or people who talk to these organizations or startups, because it doesn't really work virtually. That's my personal opinion.
I have a very different experience actually. We run an innovation accelerator with public sector organization last year, and this public sector organization is in development. So most of the participants were actually from anywhere in the world. People from Ethiopia, Sierra Leone, from anywhere. So we had no other means but to collaborate virtually, and I found it worked surprisingly well. Sometimes, you know, you had to turn off videos because the internet connection was a bit unstable, but it worked surprisingly well, and the exchange was very enriching for everyone.
I can say agree with both of you, but where do we want to be in 5 years, or where can we be in, say, 10 years? So let's say in 5 years. Let's talk about the metaverse. And I have no ideas like right now because I'm not in the actual metaverse, but I can imagine that we can combine it with you know, some of the startups we have, and you know, and actually collaborate on a global scale. However, I agree with you, Andreas. Like when it comes to creativity, there is no real substitute to really having a co-located team. Actually, also having proximity to the cooperation. It's just like, you know, the transaction costs and the communication channels, they are shorter. It's easier to communicate and collaborate. However, again, depending on the topic, depending on where the people is located, we may look into the possibilities the metaverse is offering us already today, or maybe in 1 or 2 years. And I think we'll see lots of advances.
Yeah, almost answered to it. But I'm just sharing with you experience from Ukraine ecosystem, and it's a little bit different from Europe. And usually, all Ukrainian startups immediately go outside and raise the money from the US. So we have maybe the biggest number of unicorn from Eastern Europe. Why? Because Ukraine venture capital is not quite well developed, and all startups which created already center created in Ukraine are raising money outside. And mostly it's London, Silicon Valley, New York, so the geography quite wide. And so we don't have this kind of issue. But I have another issue, and my experience, I have a dream to create kind of, I believe in co-creation, yes. And based on these principles, I think that if you combine different corporates, for example, Orlen, Shell, and another, from one industry, the challenges are more or less the same if you choose one industry, and create similar challenges for corporates which do not compete, and try to make kind of scouting program and corporate innovations cross-border, cross-corporates. And my call to all people who is from this industry, let's try to do this. Who has a client? I have a huge number of big names. I can share my experience of dealing and to create, for example, one industry which is the less disrupted. Building materials, for example, or agriculture, for example. Like choose from different countries, different corporates which not compete each other to collect challenges. If you can optimize our scouting approach, onboarding approach, and to find some solution to pilot it together. It's just an idea, and you want to have something.
Yes, actually, you know, I work a lot with public sector organizations, and that's what they do. Today, I had a call with the OECD. There is a team that's focused on innovation. It's everyone from across OECD countries, now 31 countries,
Yes.
meet at least once a month, or maybe less. Let's say once every second month, to discuss topics on innovation. Today was open innovation, and it's happening in public sector, one of the least mature sectors when it comes to innovation, and I hope it's helping, you know, because the exchange is very intense and dynamic.
Nice, thank you all. Really interesting point of views, different ones. I'm happy to hear that you already do it almost around the globe. I kind of agree that the physical presence sometimes is really important. So yeah, I'm not sure in which side I'm mainly in. So can you tell me, in your opinion, what is the most important thing that can play an important role in the success of such a startup program, accelerating program?
Okay, a short answer. I believe there needs to be a common MVP. An MVP, I'm not talking about minimal viable product. It's in this case motivation, vision, and practice. So you need to know why are you doing this, a common purpose. You need to have something like a vision, and a vision is not the solution to the problem, but just like really like let's dream a little bit, like the North Star. And the P, the practice, is like actually what you're doing. That's the first step with respect to say project or a startup. Then there are two more dimensions. You want to make sure there's an overlap of the MVP, motivation, vision, and practice of the team and of individuals. If there are overlaps of all these three dimensions, the actual business issue you're trying to resolve, the individual and the team MVPs, there's a very good chance for innovation to take place. Without it, it may be just another project, another job. But don't expect wow, don't expect magic. So I think the MVPs are very important.
Wow, what to say after that? I think to build on what you were just saying, what I would like to add is where I see one of the biggest challenges when it comes to collaboration between a large organization and a smaller one, like a startup, is the integration in the core business or the collaboration with the core business. Very often they're being supported through a program, an accelerator, whatever, for a certain period of time, and then what happens? They receive a prize, and the ambition is to continue that partnership. The ambition is to continue working together, and it's handed over to people in the core business, and they're telling you, well, I don't know what to do with this. They're not, I don't know, mature enough, or they're not like disruptive enough, and I don't believe in their tests, not like large scale enough. So the link to the core business, that's one of the very difficult things I find that needs to be resolved. The second thing is on the funding end, it's not enough to support the startup or to have a partnership for a very short period of time, because that will take the startup only from, I don't know, a very small step forward compared to the overall journey that it needs to take. So if you're doing something for 6 months, like I work a lot in life sciences, developing a new technology takes 5, 10, 15 years. You do something for 6 months, you're not going anywhere in 6 months, and you make a small step forward, so you need continuous sort of investment or funding, or a sort of a continuation of the programs, partnerships, whatever comes after.
Yes, I think I violently agree with everything. I learned from all the years we do that, matchmaking and playbooks with corporates and startups and so on, that I think expectation management is probably the most important thing. What do both sides expect from each other? What's actually the purpose of the collaboration? Do you expect that, maybe you just learn from each other, or do you expect that the company is going to be acquired in 5 years? And there I see so many misunderstandings, and if these misunderstandings are not clear from the beginning, then the chance for success is very low. So someone needs to do that expectation management, and I think that's also the job and maybe the task of the startup program managers, accelerators, incubators, etc., to make sure that these expectations are properly done. And the second thing is actually the trust, right? One is talking a lot about trust, but I think without trust it doesn't work, because you can't put that into a contract, right? For instance, if we have agreed with our corporate partners who do POCs with startups, like that the contract for a POC has 2 pages, and it's properly proven by a lawyer, so it's good, but it's 2 pages, and it's not 25 pages where you basically already sell the company. And these kind of things, this has a lot to do with trust, because eventually if you give these contracts to a lawyer within a big corporate, a bank or so, they will find hundreds risks. So they will basically advise you to not do that because it's very risky. So if the stakeholder, or maybe the sponsor or the champion, however you call it, doesn't have the trust to do that, right, and takes the risk, then it's not going to work, and then you don't even have to engage.
I would like to add maybe some structured approach. The most important issue is the preparation stage. And as you mentioned right about expectations, and the second what I would like to add is attitude of management to working with innovation and startup in general. And before starting to bring startups to corporates, usually we start from creating the business process inside of corporates and to engage as much as possible stakeholder in this corporate innovation journey inside. Without this business process, anything doesn't work. When this process is established and responsible people appointed, usually by a boss, and only then we start to make scouting. From this side, from corporate done, from startups, selection criteria is the most important. Top management don't want to waste time listening all these pitches. I don't remember the numbers, but usually, for example, if top management spent 3% of time making the startup innovations, the corporates will die. If over 15%, it means that all play this game, it becomes kind of theater of innovations. You know this, what does it mean, theater of innovations? So the middle level, 5-7%, is quite okay, but you need to give him tool, optimize as much as possible the time frame within the journey. Then, we don't exclude in terms of expectations, we will acquire you or we hire you, doesn't matter. We have the metrics. Depending on the story of relationship between corporates and startups during this program, we see which type of contract agreement we can provide. And we have, first one, a revenue sharing model. Okay, done. Then, acquisition. Okay, perfect. Some startups can work. The next one, core venture, creating kind of venture between corporates and startups. Done. Bank, Santander, BBVA like this approach. And the third type of model of cooperation is acqui-hiring, acquisition hiring. So just to hire people from startups and onboard them inside. I don't like this because the technology usually will be just inside the corporate, but this model can work as well. So, thank you.
Thanks a lot. I don't know if anyone else wants to add something before we wrap up. No? So yeah, I think they don't let me ask any more questions because we are out of time.
There's one more thing. So we talk a lot about innovation, and my experience is like with a lot of us, we think of product and process innovation. However, products and processes do not innovate. People do. So let's talk about people innovation. And it doesn't matter if you do projects or startups, etc. If there is no space for people innovation, it doesn't have to be all like equal. Don't expect miracles. People innovation is basically its core. So we have to create an environment where people innovation can actually evolve. You cannot really plan it, but you can have a structure, you need to have an environment where you can prosper, where you can nurture it, and then you can, expect magic. But without people innovation, ain't gonna fly.
Sorry, if we're conscious of time, we have to stop here because everybody has to catch their last train at 8:30. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you so much for an amazing panel. And yeah,